Howdy ho, Andrew here. Welcome to the Onion Buns and welcome to another episode of my Sunday gaming video. So I was set to have a video come out this Sunday today called Biggest Space Game Reveal of 2025. It was a comparison video between Exodus and The Expanse, Osiris Rising. And I am going to push that video to next Sunday. Because unless you've been under a rock, you know that we had a horrific crime happen this past week. And Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Now, I try to stay away from politics on my gaming videos. Unless the game itself has to do with politics. Like if I ever do a full-length video on Deus Ex, well, there's no way around it. I'm going to have to talk about politics because politics are so important to the story. They are a key point of the story, or another example would be The Witcher 1. The second and third were not so much, but the first one was so heavily imbued with politics. So that's really the only time I try to speak politics on my gaming videos. And if this was not related to gaming, you wouldn't be seeing this video whatsoever. I would be doing the biggest space game reveal video that I already have uploaded. But unfortunately, the developers, mostly Western developers, they've been frickin' disgusting with their actions, their statements. And even then, I did a react video next Friday with off of an Asmongold video. But I was going to leave it at that. And then I saw this. I saw one of the game channels I watch on YouTube is Eddiemun. He's Canadian. I think he's out of Quebec, but I might be wrong on that. I think I heard him mention it, is why I think it, but maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. Anyway, he does fantastic videos on gaming, and it's usually games that I'm not really invested in, so they're interesting to me because these are not games I'm going to look at. Like one of the games in this upcoming video is the new Sucker Punch game, Ghosts of something or other. It's a Japanese feudal game, but it's been getting just wrecked because it's woke, and it's obviously woke. But I'm not going to do a video on that game because I have absolutely no interest in that game. So unless somebody wants to pay me to do it, I'm not going to do it. But he came out with a video about the devs that reacted to the Charlie Kirk killing, and I'm going to do a react video off of his video because I think his video speaks so directly to the topic at hand. And also, the other thing I should point out is when I do a react video, I try to make sure that they're like 3-4 weeks old that I'm reacting to so that their videos, they have the time to get the upload. Unfortunately, with the Charlie Kirk, it's time sensitive. So I'm going to do a react video on one he uploaded 2 days ago. And it's quicker than I would like. It's quicker than I would normally do. But if I didn't feel it was such a poignant video, I wouldn't be doing it. So sit back and watch. It's a react video, so I'm going to add my 2 cents. Like I've promised on my Friday React that I will never just play somebody's video because to me that's piracy. If I'm going to do a react video on somebody's video, I'm going to have strong opinions, and trust me, if you look at my channel, I have strong opinions on what happened to Charlie Kirk, why, how it came about, how we solve it. I'm not going to go into any of that. This is going to be gaming. But if you want to, you can just go check this past week. I've uploaded like 4 videos on the topic. All right, so with that all said, let's jump into it. Oh, and if you're wondering about my background, I mean, there's no gaming background that really fits the situation. So I found this image. It's Martin Luther King, JFK, and Charlie Kirk. And what it says, when free speech is silenced with bullets, history is repeating itself. And I think that's pretty poignant in itself. All right, we're about to start. The title of this is, as you can, or you may not be able to see, the game industry has shown their true colors.
I'm sure you've already been aware that a horrific tragedy has happened in America recently involving the political commentator known as Charlie Kirk. Like many of you, I was devastated by what happened, and I was truly hoping that he would pull himself through all of this. I know that I'm not necessarily a political channel, although I do sort of combine that with video games quite often, and unfortunately these days, it's become ever increasingly clear that the mixture of politics and games media has become synonymous with one another, thanks to the many activist types that rot out the husks of these westernized studios. So
that's he's bang on the money right there. I'll be mentioning this later in the video. I've already watched most of this video, so I kind of got an idea where I want to talk. But I find a lot of the studios nowadays are highly politicalized. Like one of my favorite studios, and it's not Western, it's in Poland, is CD Projekt Red. I love The Witcher 1, I love The Witcher 2, I love The Witcher 3, I love Cyberpunk 2077. I won't step foot on their forums anymore. And I am an original member of the original CD Projekt Red forums. They're long gone now, but I was one of the original members there, so I've been there since day one. I won't step foot on the CD Projekt Red forums anymore because it is so highly politicalized to the left wing there. It's rampant, it's radical, and I want to play games to avoid that shit. So
I wasn't originally going to talk about any of this because, again, I'm not a political channel, but unfortunately people who make games in this industry have decided to now show their true colors, and it's frankly disgusting. So I want to talk about this and more, so please, let me just speak here for a moment. Gameplay footage wise on screen, nothing really works here, so just let me put stuff on screen. Just let me talk, all right? Just let me talk. Firstly, I want to talk about the big one, which is Ghost of Yotei. This game comes out in less than a month. It's a game from Sucker Punch that decided to pivot the franchise to a female character that is being portrayed by a crazy activist already, as we all know. Then Grums was informed that someone named Drew, who works at Sucker Punch on Ghost of Yotei, was celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. The post said this: "I hope the shooter's name is Mario so that Luigi knows his bro has his back." But then as you can see below that, they have also retweeted saying that Charlie Kirk was transphobic and racist as well. They then decided to say more, which we can read from the bottom here to the top. "I have been told that the Twitter has noticed me from across the room. Maybe instead of emailing people's employers, y'all should be emailing your reps and demand gun control immediately."
Okay, he actually doesn't. I found this out today, so I'm just going to clarify something. Gun control wouldn't have mattered whatsoever. The shooter got a gun from a fellow radicalized left-wing extremist. The FBI, his roommate, gave the FBI access to their Discord channel and the emails and everything. And this assassination was completely planned out ahead of time. This was premeditated, and it was between left-wing activists from Antifa.
You do realize that the person who ended Charlie was literally a trained assassin, right? Info has come out on the gun that was used and everything. This was not just some random person. It was a professional hit. I don't think gun control is going to matter to someone who likely has military experience and is likely being funded behind the scenes to take out political targets. What you should be asking yourself, Drew Harrison of Sucker Punch, is why you felt the need to even comment on this in the first place. You're a game developer. You have no reason to open your mouth about things that you have no business with. You make video games. You're not running for office or standing in the open debating those who hate you openly like Charlie did so bravely many times. You would never do what he did because you're too afraid to. Instead, you'll just sit in your office and think that you're somehow holier than thou. And the added insult to injury is that your actions and opinions are not just reflective of you as a person, but your words will speak for the rest of Sucker Punch as well, because by employing you there, what your words tell us is that Sucker Punch is fine and also just allows such rhetoric to be said openly like this. I said this on Twitter, but this is enough for me to never want to buy Yotei at all. I don't want...
he just hit on something that's been driving me nuts for a number of years in entertainment and games. Is every Hollywood actor, every game producer, it seems nowadays, has this highly toxic political opinion that they freely share because they've been given a platform through the movies or whatever. Like a great example would be Renee, or what's her name from Snow White. I can't remember her name now. But anyway, she basically ruined her own career by being a left-wing activist. And now nobody wants to hire her because she wouldn't shut up, and she wouldn't just promote the movie. She had to put in her own political agenda into everything during the promotional tour. And I find this is very common nowadays, is be it Hollywood, entertainment, TV, games, they all think because they have this platform, that means we want to hear about them from politics. No, if I want a political opinion, I'm going to go to a political analyst. These people are not political analysts. I'm not even sure these people are sane, if I'm being quite honest. Like, I really do question their sanity.
I want to give my money to people who celebrate when other people are ended like this just because they disagree with them politically. And I know that by me giving my money to Sucker Punch on this, that I'm telling Sucker Punch that I agree with them and that I want their developers who are so clearly lost in the ideological nonsense that I somehow want more of what they have to say. No, I'm tired of it. I'm so sick of these people saying these things so openly without any repercussions being had. Sucker Punch is quite literally employing people who not only celebrate death, but also advocate for further action as well. And before someone says that I'm doxing, no, this is not doxing. This is a professional working in a company that has their name publicly in credits on commercially viable products. I am not wanting any harm or something done to this Drew person like that. I am simply showing you that Sucker Punch is employing people who celebrate and laugh at the death of others simply due to their politics.
If you went into a restaurant and you ordered a steak and you knew for a fact that the cook dropped the steak on the floor and left it there for 5 minutes, picked it up, cleaned it off, and served it to you, and you know this because they came out and they advertised it to you, would you eat there? Really, seriously, ask yourself, would you eat there? Would you pay for that meal? Would you eat there? Well, it's the exact same thing when these developers spew their politics, their radical extremist politics, because they've been given a platform for a game. One has nothing to do with the other, and what they say reflects on the product that they are presenting. It's the God honest truth. This is why a lot of sports teams have ethics clauses in their contracts. It's like you cannot go out and just spew hate and garbage. Even if you believe that, you can't do it without getting fired and losing millions.
And I also think that it's disgusting that PlayStation as well pays the salaries of people like this. I will not be buying Ghost of Yote because of this Drew individual. I don't want to give my money to companies that hire and protect people who are clearly advocating for more political violence and assassinations against those that they dislike. Yeah, the first straw broke was Erika Ishii being the main character in that game, who I can only guess is probably also laughing about Charlie Kirk dying too. I like Sucker Punch games before. I've bought plenty of their other games well before they were infested with this rot virus. But it's become very clear that this company has made it, very obvious that they are totally fine with employing actually horrible human beings like this. And this is a terrible look for your game where your studio has so much riding on its success as well. So shame on Sucker Punch for this. And I'm disgusted by the words of your employee. You also had Legacy Killa HD, another YouTuber, who went onto Blue Sky and also found quite a few developers from other game studios also liking posts where Charlie Kirk was reported dead as well. For example, is seen here. Someone named Lee Cash, who works at the Coalition, that's the Microsoft Gears of War studio, is also celebrating Charlie Kirk dying as well. We also have Kelly Snyder, a senior producer on, yet again, Ghost of Yote, also liking posts about Kirk's death. So you can add that to the other Yote dev pile for another reason to never buy that game now. We also have as seen here someone named Dennis, who does special effects at Bungie. They do Destiny and Marathon as well, in case you don't know, but they're also liking that Charlie Kirk has died. And people like this Zib, I'm assuming that's not the real name, but anyway, at the bottom here, they work at Magic the Gathering as well. Like I said, it's a lot of Western studio slop that are very happy that a conservative political commentator has died like this. They want more of this, and they think it's funny. And I now regret buying Gears Reloaded knowing that this lead person probably worked on it. And this has also tainted my enjoyment of the infamous franchise or Sly Cooper and more, knowing that these people at Sucker Punch are being employed and protected by their studio heads that say things like this. I really do think that a boycott will happen for future games because of things like this. And
I actually think a boycott has started happening because these games are not selling well. A lot of these modern games are not selling well. And I mean, they'll blame the gamers and they'll call them a whole bunch of horrible names, but in the end, nobody's buying the games. So is that not the definition of a boycott? You can argue over the reason, but I think it's a multitude of reasons. And I think the behavior of a lot of these devs and studios are part of the problem.
And it's really not wrong of me to say that you should not give money to people who clearly hate you like this. But I will say that these studios employing people like this is making it increasingly easier to save my money, that's for sure. And what I've also noticed is the only people celebrating this death are those of one single political side, yet they will cry and call for censorship against you if you speak out against them, which is quite ironic. I think this user which retweeted Legacy Killer HD's tweet about it said it best. These people high-fiving over a man being assassinated are the same ones that demand mass bannings from games for toxic behavior. And exactly this, these are the same types who would want you silenced, banned, and their co-workers fired if they spoke out against their ideological beliefs. It's become very clear that the Western games industry has normalized actual radical liberal beliefs to such a level that they believe themselves to be untouchable. And while I will never condone violence against others, I do think it's morally right to boycott and not buy products made by people who would...
Absolutely. In one of my most recent videos, I really stressed that I am not admonishing for violence. I think we need to get rid of the rot out of politics. But that doesn't, when I say get rid of the rot, I mean unelect them. I'm not advocating for violence. There's only one group that's advocating for violence from where I see.
Celebrate your death as well, like this has happened now. But what scares me also is just how dehumanizing these developers have proven themselves to be. They have become so apathetic to other human beings that they will cheer and applaud the deaths of those that they hate because they've told that they have to hate them. I know you'll hear people say we must separate the art from the artist, but in this case, I really don't think that's the case anymore. It's become clear that it's impossible to do that when it comes to games or anything else. I don't want to support people who likely would also laugh or cheer if I was dead as well. I think these people are very mentally unwell. And
They are. I call it a mental disease. I got to put some context into this, and I'm sorry for talking about politics. I am a moderate. In case nobody out there knows, I am a political moderate. I go a little bit to the right on law and order, military, commerce or economy, justice. And I go a little bit to the left on social issues, but traditional left. And that's the key word, is we're not dealing with the traditional left. We are dealing with the modern left, which is radical extremist alt left. Here in Canada, it's globalism. In the States, I'm not really sure what the Democrats, somebody in the States would have to correct me on it. I don't think they're globalists, but like we have in Canada, but they might be socialists. I'm not really sure. As I'm Canadian, so I'm not really in tune to the whole American political system. But what I've seen is the traditional left, I've seen it called alt-right by the modern left. Like, I voted liberal in the 1990s, and that government that I voted for in the 1990s, which was center-left, is widely referred to as alt-right nowadays by the modern-day left. So you have to put into context that right and left, well, you're not dealing with that anymore. You're dealing with extreme, radicalized, toxic. You're not dealing with center left or even left wing. You're into the extreme. And that's who he's talking about when he says left wing.
They really don't realize is that they too are a single mistake away themselves from being thrown to the wolves as well. If any of these developers disagreed or had second thoughts against their cult hive mind like beliefs, their so-called friends and co-workers would immediately throw them to the wolves without a second thought, and they know that. That's the real tragedy here. And that's the real tragedy here, which is that these developers who advocate for violence against anyone who doesn't think like they are not among friends, even if they think they are. Because this is what cults are. They're extremists. They need their beliefs to be 100% accepted, or they lash out at anyone, even people around them. So if that Drew Harrison of Sucker Punch one day said that they didn't agree with something that was even remotely light-leaning, Sucker Punch's own devs would probably advocate for the studio to fire them, and they know that. I mean, how can you reasonably work somewhere knowing that you're all on tight ropes, hoping that no one starts burning your rope over someone else's like this? You are all so deep in your ideologies that you've become unaware of how much of a problem you're in until it's usually too late. And like I said, the dehumanization of Charlie Kirk from these developers and many more that I'll show is just deplorable. I don't want to support games made by people who advocate for political assassinations. No. I don't really care who that offends, even if it can somehow, but it has to be said that way. Politics.
And again, context. If somebody went out and assassinated, trying to think, like, I know the names in Canada, but I want to get a name that people outside of Canada would also know. Some CNN reporter, okay? Say somebody went out and assassinated a CNN reporter. I would not be in favor of that. I would be speaking out just as much against that as I am against Charlie Kirk being assassinated. And full transparency, I like Charlie Kirk. I didn't agree with Charlie Kirk on much. I'm not religious in the least. He was highly religious. But what I liked about him is he was a smart, intelligent, articulate person. And he used words. And he was open to debate. And if you thought you could sway him, he gave you the chance. What more could you ask for? Like that's honestly what I want my right and my left politicians and influencers to be. If I disagree with them, I want to present my case and I want them to present their case, and maybe we disagree and we walk away, or maybe one of us changes the other's opinion through dialogue. And that's what's so egregious to me is the left, the modern day left, they knew they couldn't combat him on the dialogue, so they shot him. That's not cool.
Have ruined everything, and with what's happened recently, it's become clear that the Western industry is definitely compromised by hundreds, if not thousands, of developers who also think this way. But I guarantee you, because I've spoken to many developers myself, that a lot of these people just agree with the crazy ones at their places to keep their jobs. But we both know that if any developer at these studios spoke up in defense of Charlie Kirk, they would be fired, and that's kind of insane, but it's true. It really doesn't surprise me that someone from Bungie either would be happy that someone they hate is dead. I mean, Bungie has fallen long ago already, but they have bigger problems because their player base is dwindling fast and Marathon looks like a bust already. But I guess when you hire a bunch of people who care more about being political activists over game developers first, you get what you pay for.
And that drives me nuts with modern gaming. It's 100% accurate. It is political activism 101. It has replaced storytelling. Like in my videos, if you've watched any of my videos, I routinely tell you, I wanted to kill every one of my companions in Dragon Age Inquisition. I wanted to kill every one of my companions in Mass Effect Andromeda. And I never played Dragon Age Inquisition, but I guarantee you I would have had the same feeling because it was activism. It was not good writing. All I want is good, strong writing that entertains me, that keeps me interested. I don't care about real-world activism in my games. I want it left out of my games. So he's 100% right. It's like most of these studios nowadays, they're more interested in special interest activism than they are in making quality games.
I said there are unfortunately more. We have Kate here, who is a translator for Square Enix, which breaks my heart, but this person works on Final Fantasy XIV specifically, and this Kate person retweeted this. Anyway, the choice America faces going forward is live in the Confederacy or do Reconstruction for real and purge those mother effers from all of public life. And there really isn't an in-between. So Kate, by retweeting this, is advocating for anyone that she disagrees with politically to be literally purged from the earth itself because they don't agree with her politics. How can Square Enix be okay with someone like this working for them? Look, I love Square Enix and their games. It's mostly their Western side that is definitely the problem. But I also know that there are good people who work there because I've talked to them before privately myself. But this Kate person is clearly deranged. This is objectively even worse. They just want you gone at this point. How is that okay? Blue Sky is also apparently silencing people who do speak on Charlie Kirk, which...
That amazes me. Blue Sky is actually taking a stance in sanity. I did a video just yesterday that comes out next Friday, and it was about it was a political video, and all it was about all the insane reactions of these people celebrating his death, cheering his death, wishing death on other people just because they simply disagree with them. And 90% of them were on Blue Sky. And I'm not on Blue Sky, but I've heard reports over the years that if you go onto Blue Sky and you argue with a left-winger, a modern-day left-winger, they will ban you for it instantly. No warnings, no anything. You will be banned instantly because they promote that. So I was shocked to hear in this video that Blue Sky has actually said, no, we can't do it, and they've started to stop the celebration and cheering of Charlie Kirk's death.
Means in a funny twist that the website that is ran by activists is being silenced by their own, which again proves what I've said before, which is that these types don't actually think of each other as real friends. They're just burning each other's ropes to save themselves. But Kate of Square Enix would then say this. I mean, I don't know. I do think we should be planning a mass exodus of this site. They mean Blue Sky. Earlier on, you could kind of give the benefit of the doubt in some cases, due to moderation being inherently challenging, but they've made it pretty clear they're intentionally aligning with the boot at this point. No, Kate, they're not aligning with the boot. Again, you're just using rhetoric that clearly shows your own bias. You instead think anyone who doesn't think like you is a Yahtzee monster. That's so evidently clear now. Actually, her response to Blue Sky suppressing Kirk talk and calls for political violence really tells you everything you need to know. That Kate has a problem with this because she just wants more of it, which is kind of messed up. She wants to be able to comfortably call for the death of those that she disagrees with more. Again, this person works on Final Fantasy XIV as a translator. How is this okay? This Kate is also responsible for characters like Wook Lamont, which is highly regarded to be the...
Okay, anyone that knows me knows I'm a cat person. That's a horrible frickin' character right off the bat. Like, that is cringeworthy.
Worst character in Final Fantasy XIV's history. The character is voiced by a transgender voice actor, and when the audience of 14 vocally stated that they thought that Wook Lamont is a bad character, and then that led to 14 losing hundreds of thousands of players due to Dawn Trail being not what they wanted, how did Kate respond? Well, she said this. The hardest thing is if there's a character I really like and then people say this character sucks, I'm like, no, you're wrong.
The picture kind of tells the whole story of what you're dealing with.
How can you reason with people like this anymore? They're pushing ideology to Japanese games and then getting mad when the player-based mass exodus is out of the game that they're working on because they're pushing their own ideology into it. So if the pink hair didn't give it away already, it's clearly based on what this Kate has said or retweeted that this woman wants more political violence. She wants more Charlie Kirks to happen. As if 14 had enough problems to deal with, they have this now, unfortunately, too. And it's all terrible, but it keeps going. I also do want to bring a comic book writer into this fold, too. Gretchen Felker Martin, who worked on the new Red Book comic book series, that's this book right here on screen for you, said this on social media that Charlie Kirk was a Yahtzee and other words I can't say, and as you can see at the bottom there, Gretchen shows thoughts and prayers for the bullet that struck Kirk, not Kirk himself. And I said worked on because as seen here within hours of this Gretchen person, which is a terrible name by the way, just sounds disgusting honestly, their Red Hood book was cancelled by DC Comics effectively immediately due to their comments on Kirk's death, and good on DC for doing this actually. This Red Hood book just released its first chapter by the way, and it debuted recently too, and now DC has confirmed not only have they pulled the book and severed all ties, but they have also refunded anyone who bought the book and have canceled future shipments of comics related to this Gretchen person too that were already done. As DC said here in a statement, at DC Comics we place the highest value on our creators and community and affirm the right to peaceful individual expression of personal viewpoints. Posts are public comments that can be viewed as promoting hostility or violence or inconsistent with DC standards of conduct, and this is exactly how it should be done. Fast, precise, and that's it. There should be zero room for anyone to advocate for political violence or death, no matter the medium. These sorts of radicals need to be removed because they are using their platforms to quite literally advocate for more violence by weaponizing their fan base. The same way those Ghost of Yote, Coalition, and Bungie devs are doing, this really cannot stand. Because by employing people who push this hateful rhetoric and wanting more violence, these companies like Sony, PlayStation, and more, just like with Square Enix and that K-Translator person, by keeping these people employed at your companies, you are telling the world that you are perfectly fine with harboring and allowing such extremist views to exist within your companies like this. This is no longer just a left versus right problem. This is a total rejection of everything related to extremism. I don't think any side can agree that what happened is morally right because it was wrong. And frankly, if you believe ending people you disagree with is morally right, then to me, you have clearly crossed the line. You're no longer sane enough to function in a society anymore. It was
1,000 correct. Oh, by the way, just to throwing it out there, I got my first death threat over this on my YouTube channel. Yeah, we're really dealing with tolerant left here. Just baffles the mind. Really does.
There's even a YouTuber named Dark Viper who does Grand Theft Auto content that is happy that Kirk is dead. Here's what he said via social media. Every positive post about Charlie Kirk is either ignorance of who he was or support of who he was, and it's scary I can't tell which. Among endless things, he was a proponent of the Great Replacement Theory, the racist idea that immigration is a plot to replace white people. Dark Viper continues, Matt, I can't believe you, a guy in love with a Latina, didn't like one of the most hate-filled bigots of all time. Are you crazy? He built his career on inspiring hate. I didn't say he deserved to die. I said it's morally ironic he reaped what he sowed. Except he didn't. You're lying, Viper. Kirk was one of the only people actually trying to bridge a gap between the political sides by putting himself out there, by talking to people every single day. Don't believe me? Fine. Here's a clip of Charlie saying this while talking to someone that clearly hates him. Watch.
I got a question.
Sure. What was your name again? I'm sorry.
I don't think I told you. My name's Mercury.
Nice to meet you.
Why are you here?
Okay, I've been asked that question a lot. First of all, that question should not even have to be asked, but when people stop talking, really bad stuff starts. When marriages stop talking, divorce happens. When civilizations stop talking, civil war ensues. When you stop having a human connection with someone you disagree with, it becomes a lot easier to want to commit violence against that group. What we as a culture have to get back to is being able to have reasonable disagreement where violence is not an option.
You think that's not emotional violence?
How is this? What is emotional violence, by the way? I don't know what that is.
It is harm intentionally perpetrated on another another human being that is intentionally targeted at their emotional well-being.
Okay, so feelings mean nothing to me. Isn't why we had the First Amendment to try to push our boundaries and to hear things that might make you mildly uncomfortable?
This doesn't make me mildly uncomfortable.
Does it make you very uncomfortable?
It makes me angry.
As you just saw, Charlie Kirk said the entire reason for what he does was simple. It was to have a conversation, to bridge that gap between extremist sides. He wasn't asking the people on the left, like that person in the video I just showed you, to end themselves or something. No, he simply wanted to have a conversation. And like Kirk said, when discussions end between nations, that's when war begins. That's when violence happens.
Yep.
Because there is no human connection anymore when people stop talking to one another, even if it's uncomfortable to do so. And like he said, when people stop talking, they end up dying. And that's what happened. What it proved was that the left, the radical left, I should say, clearly wasn't willing to have a conversation with someone like Charlie Kirk anymore. They were instead resorting to violence because they couldn't debate him. They didn't want to hear his reasonings because when he spoke, he was actually changing people's minds, and they didn't like that. It didn't mean it.
I saw a really disturbing statistic the other day. It was, they did a poll of the American universities, and they found 50% of the kids in those universities actually identify as Republican. But those kids said they were terrified, that's their word, not mine, to openly admit this for fear of physical retaliation by radical left-wingers and their professors. Is that not what Charlie just said? Is there's no communication there. There's just the threat of violence.
And he was bringing them to the right. He was just bringing people more to a center viewpoint, a reset, if you will. And that proved that these sorts of people, like that Mercury individual in the video with Kirk that you just saw, that what Charlie was doing by sitting there and willing to have a conversation, that made them angry. It made them angry that someone was just willing to sit down and just talk to people about things. Just marinate in that for a second. They wanted him dead because he was willing to talk to people about the world, and then they ended him for that. If that doesn't spark something in you that there's definitely something wrong with the way this world is going, I don't think nothing will. And that's really why I'm making this video, why I'm bringing up all of these game developers that are celebrating the death of this young man. I mean, for God's sakes, he's even younger than I am, and now he's gone. I mean, these developers from Yote to Gears, Final Fantasy XIV, and more, what they have confirmed with their words and by reposting and their actions is that they are unwilling to have that conversation with any of us anymore. They really don't want to bridge the gap. They'd rather burn you down and have you be gone, and they will laugh at it as it happens.
Yep. Like I said, I got a video coming out on Friday, and it's actually an hour long, and all the video is going over responses from the radical left, celebrating, cheering, demanding other names be put on a list to be ended in the way Charlie Kirk was ended. That's all they did. An hour long of that. And I'm by myself here, so you can, if I found that many, you can guarantee there's like 100,000% more out there that I didn't find or hear of. You know, like, what does that say about society out there? I find that very depressing.
And how can we as reasonable human beings rationalize the absolute absurdity and cult-like behavior of these people who were not only employed at these AAA gaming studios that make these games, but support them knowing that deep down they want you to just eat the slop and shut your mouths for the rest of time? I can't do that. We shouldn't do that. This is morally wrong from beginning to end for someone like me. I can't play Yote now knowing that these people who worked on that game would laugh if any one of us died as well. I can't morally play Final Fantasy XIV knowing that this Kate person wants more political violence, that she wants anyone who disagrees with her to just be buried 6 feet deep. How can you reason with an enemy when they are unwilling to see reason anymore? It just makes me worried about the future. Also, if I sound different here, I'm sorry. I'm re-recording this part after already having done the video, so I left my video to upload thinking it was all done, and I went outside. And then Grums informs me that, well, what happened has officially happened. So let's add this now to the video again so that I can upload it again. Joy. Anyway, so it turns out that Ghost of Yote dev Drew Harrison, who celebrated Charlie Kirk's death, has been officially fired from Sucker Punch. As seen here, Drew said, "If standing up against fascism is what cost me my dream job I held for 10 years, I would do it again 100 times stronger." So it is confirmed that this Drew individual has lost their job for their comments, and good on Sucker Punch for doing this. Although that other person, the Snyder lady who liked the post of Charlie dying, is still there too. It is funny that for a group that advocated for cancel culture against conservatives so badly over all of these years, that they are now mad that they are truly reaping what they sowed. But I just wanted to add that update here, because I know that some people will say, oh, why didn't you update it? So I did it, and I'm going to re-upload this whole video again. It's like 55 gigabytes, man. Trust me, that's a lot for YouTube, or for me anyways. But now back to the original video. Thank you for understanding. It also makes me wonder if more violence will happen on all sides. I mean, what will happen if someone who's conservative maybe decides to target a liberal speaker next?
That's one of my biggest fears, to be honest, because now, like I said, I'm a moderate. I got to tell a story here. I have a friend, she lives in Mexico. She is a far left-winger. She has no clue what she's talking about on politics. I don't talk to politics with her. And she hates Trump. Like, she has Trump derangement syndrome so massively. But she's Canadian. So she says to me, if you had to vote between Kamala and Trump, who would you vote for? And I said, I wouldn't vote for either of them. I don't do extremist politics. But if you had to vote for one, again, I wouldn't vote for either. I don't do extremist politics. But if you had to, I'm like, I know what you're trying to do here. I reject the premise. I don't do extremist politics. I would not vote for Trump, and I would not vote for Harris. They are the same on polar opposite ends. And I reject the presence. But having said that, and having no dog in the fight, if the right ever decided they had had enough and started to use the tactics that the left has been using, the left would get wiped out. They wouldn't stand a frickin' chance. And that's not me supporting the right. That's not me supporting or advocating for violence. That's just God honest truth. The left would get decimated. They better pray that the right wing, especially in the States, never reaches that point. Because the day they reach that point, it's over.
What would that accomplish? It would only embolden and make that side even more radical. The content they would make would even become even more vitriolic. The games of these devs that they would work on would simply become bludgeoning tools to attack ideologies and radicalize people that they've been conditioned to not accept things no matter what they're told. This cycle of violence would just continue, and I don't reasonably see it stopping any soon. And as I say in any video of mine when I talk about people, no matter how big or small they are, you should never harass people. You should never attack them or find them in public or dox them or anything like that. Because while it may seem useless now to some with how they feel right now, it's important to remember that you have to be better than they are. Yep. You have to not stoop down to the levels, you have to not advocate for more violence, and you have to not become the very thing that you are pushing back against. And what these developers have proven by speaking out is that they are beneath you. They are willing to use scummy tactics to advocate for further violence, and that their positions at these companies or studios proves that they are radicals and they think that they're untouchable. I'm not saying that all of Sucker Punch or Square Enix is radical. I know they're not. I know people at Square Enix. There are good people there who are normal. But they do need to realize by allowing these individuals to poison the well at your studios or your companies, it will only make all of you as a collective whole the worse for it. What DC Comics did with that Red Hood writer was good because DC saw the writing on the wall. They knew that if they protected that Gretchen writer, God, that name sucks, that they would have a political firestorm on their backs.
Yes and no. Like, I quit... Sorry. I quit buying comics a while ago, except for a few select titles, and they're not DC or Marvel. But I still watch a lot of YouTube videos, and I did hear about Red Hood, and I heard the second and third hand opinions about Red Hood. That comic should have never been greenlit. Now, I'm not going to go into the reasons why, but that comic should have never been greenlit. So really, it should have never been running to be canceled. Like that girl, she should have never been hired from day one. She had a history, and that's what's been floating around about that comic. So I wasn't surprised to hear her make these comments, because that was very in keeping with the public persona she had prior to the comic, according to all the other sources. You know, if anything, all these companies need to do better background checks on their potential employees.
Really wouldn't be worth whatever revenue they would have generated from that single book. And then Savvy, a friend of the channel, has unfortunately found even more developers that are advocating for violence. It's just so tiring, but here's what she found. Bruce Napick works at Epic Games and in Trust and Safety, ironically, and here is Bruce saying that silence speaks volumes when Chris Pratt, a Hollywood actor, condemned the death of Charlie Kirk and said that it was terrible that it even happened. And here's Bruce retweeting how right-wing media apparently stokes hatred and fear. And here's Bruce saying that anyone who advocates for ICE is a bigot pretty much. Again, giving money to Fortnite is helping this guy pay his bills. And it's horrible to see Epic employing people like this. Here's also Andrew Staley, who also works on Fortnite, saying this too. There aren't many people in this world whose death would make me smile. This is one of them. What a perfect time to be at a bourbon festival. He also said, just made it to the hotel in Louisville for the festival, just hearing about Kirk now, gonna party even effing harder now. Here's more of this Andrew Staley of Epic Games retweeting plenty of things about how Kirk was a bigot and a horrible person. This guy is happy that someone he dislikes has died due to political violence. And as you can see, it's very clearly only one side of the political spectrum in video games that are celebrating that a man is dead and that his kids are now without their father forever now. They're genuinely laughing about this and celebrating and drinking alcohol and partying, knowing that someone they disagree with politically is gone now. And our money, by supporting these game franchises, is keeping these sorts of people employed. And it's just morally wrong to support these companies at this point. It just is. I'm disgusted by Epic Games employing some hateful and awful people like this. But what happens next will be even more important, which is whether these companies will hold their employees to the same moral standards as they would if their employees were also ousted as conservatives. Game developers and more have been fired for simply agreeing with conservative values in the past. Look how people reacted when the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's was ousted as a conservative. He didn't even do anything. He's just a conservative, and they still wanted him dead. So if these companies protect these people or say that they're somehow allowed to voice their opinions this way with political violence, then you have your answer, which is that places like Bungie, Coalition, Sucker Punch, Epic, and more are allowing their developers to publicly laugh and celebrate the violence that is tearing America apart and more some. I am more saddened than I am angry at this time. I don't want more death. I don't want more divide. If you've been watching my content, especially what I've been making this year, the vast majority of it has been about the industry, about high game prices, about censorship, things like that. I tried to keep myself more clear of the so-called culture war because I thought maybe we as a community could maybe move past that. But unfortunately now it seems while I would like to leave that culture war behind, it's very clear that war is not leaving us behind, and that saddens me greatly. And the people retweeting and pushing rhetoric to shoot conservatives, to end anyone they disagree with, the death of Charlie Kirk was done in large part by those who push these hateful messages into the ether. And I'm shocked, and frankly, sleep has even been hard to accomplish thanks to these events for me. I already know inevitably that more will happen, and I'll probably have to do a follow-up video, but for now, I think this is a good spot to end it. But before I leave, please do not give in to hate. Do not become the very things that wish you dead. We need to be better than this, and we need to show that any community, no matter how divided, must come together to stop these things before they become worse. Video games, comics, entertainment should be about escapism, about nerdy, fun things. But it's very clear that there's a pact of people who just want to use it to hurt others, and that cannot stand. I thank you for watching. Please be good to yourselves and those around you, and do not give in to hate. Because if you do, you're doing exactly what these types want you to do. So don't let them win. You're all better than that. I know it. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.
As I said, excellent video by him. I love his videos. I watch them all the time. Sometimes the topics or the game in particular don't appeal to me and I'll skip by, but he's a fantastic creator. And he's correct. Gaming is about escapism. It's not about the real world drama. Or it shouldn't be. And these developers need to stop pushing their political agendas. And I don't care if it's right wing or left wing. Stop pushing your political agendas in games. Just stop. Let us have our entertainment. And they have to be more careful on what they say. You know, I honestly don't care if most of those companies go under, to be honest. If I'm being really honest, I don't. Because they've lost the right to be celebrated because of their behaviors. So, yeah, anyway, like I said, I don't want to do politics on my Sunday gaming. And hopefully nothing happens in the next while and I can just stick to gaming on the weekends. Saturday and Sunday, I do gaming videos. During the week, I'll be changing up my schedule and I'll be doing more politics because... You know, the one video I thought series I had, the happy day of animals, I thought was going to be my big watch. It gets almost no views, so I got to change a few things up. And seems like politics is kind of my go-to, as I am very politically active. But during the weekends, I want to decompress and do gaming, and I don't want the two worlds mixing together. I really don't. When I turn on a game, I want escapism. I just want to go in, have fun, enjoy myself, and forget about my problems. Forget about what's going on in the world. And these developers are making that increasingly more difficult because they can't stop pushing their own political agendas. So anyway, that's my video for this week. If you like the video, leave a like, a subscribe, and a share. I'm trying to grow my channel, and a like, a subscribe, and a share does me wonders, and I do appreciate it. Takes 1 second to subscribe, costs you absolutely nothing, helps me immensely. Just hit the subscribe button on the bottom of the screen. Always feel free to leave a comment. I encourage everybody to leave a comment. Not only does it get us interacting, but it really does help me with the YouTube algorithm and getting more eyes on my videos. And as always, pew, 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 and shit. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.